Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Newsline Live. My guest this evening is a person with vast experience in Parliament, but he's not a parliamentarian. Instead, he was Director Administration for a pretty long time, and I thought we'd ask the gentleman in question as to what on earth really goes on in Parliament, and why is it that after so many years of independence, various matters in Sri Lanka haven't taken shape. Is it because of a lack of commitment to legislate according to the people's needs? Is it that Parliament simply has no commitment to the people once the people have elected them in? Let's find out, shall we? Very good evening to you, Mr. Lacille de Silva.
Good evening to you, Faraz.
Now, can I get straight to the point here? Sri Lanka, 72 years after independence, we have a situation where, for example, our schools, there's 570 odd schools without toilets. This is a significant blow, especially to the female student community, which means that they probably miss about 4 days school every month, which is, has long-term impacts on our economy because, of course, on the education of those children, of those girls. And then that's just one matter that I can come up with. So tell me, in your vast experience in several years in Parliament as its administrator, do you detect a real commitment to legislate pro the people's needs?
You spoke of since independence, right? Now, at the time of independence, we had a constitution, the Salisbury Constitution. There we had a Senate and a Parliament, right? So naturally, we had, I would say it this way, gentlemen politicians who were very much committed to the job. And unfortunately, you know, as you said, there were a lot of policies that were drawn by those politicians at the time since independence, even prior to independence, I would say, since 1931, because this is the oldest democracy in Asia. In 1931, there was State Council and there were 7 cabinet ministers. I believe most of the infrastructure, say structural governance model, in the sense the present system, was established during that period in 1931 with the cabinet of ministers, which had only 7 of them. Now, you spoke of toilets, lavatories in schools.
Yes, 500 odd schools without toilets.
You know, our education system was not that much at a, you know, not very strong at the time. It was really the minister, C.W.W. Kanangara, who introduced. And having introduced all that, he was keen and he established primary school in every 2 miles and a Mahavidyalaya in 5 miles, and schools, central schools in selected towns. So this was all over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now you spoke of schools without toilets. Actually, some of the schools that he originally started had also been shut down now. You know, this doesn't speak well.
Well, you mean they've shut down the schools?
Yes.
Well, that's
nearly
it must be the only country in the world that's done that.
Yeah, because the population grew up, I mean, increasing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you just can't see schools being shut down in a country after independence, because after independence, how did things go wrong? What happened? As you very correctly said, right, whether there has been some problem or how did these problems occur? Now, basically these problems occurred, I believe, you know, there was a system where the Parliament has an important role and they have to represent the masses. Actually, that's the place where they have to air the grievances and draw up policies in order to take the country forward. So naturally, as you very rightly said, unfortunate situation is there were no plans drawn up. If you think broadly, right, now I said schools, health, even transport, it was all done during the early periods.
In the early stages of our democracy.
Yeah, right. And again, now transport, let's say, was actually it was taken over and established CTB, right? All that eventually was privatized. You know the situation of transport. So similarly, everything, I don't think they have drawn up good policies.
Can I just ask you, shall we get cut to the chase here? In your opinion, because you spent how many years, Lacille?
37 years in
37 years. 37 years in Parliament, finishing up, retiring as Director Administration. In your opinion, are parliamentarians in the main, shammers, fudging, or are they committed to their job? It's a very direct question.
Yeah. Now, this is a very difficult question to answer because, you know, if they had done their job well, I don't think we would have.
So they have failed.
They have definitely failed. I like to say it this way. Now, even when you know, we saw it. Now, even when the president had delivered the first speech, right? Yeah. Inaugural speech in Parliament, which is called the throne speech normally, right? There were ministers who were dozing off.
You mean this time?
Even this time.
Oh, well, I hope Sir sacks them.
Right. This is the situation in Parliament. Parliament is there in order to take up all those public issues and then draw up plans, and then if necessary, you know, enact laws, all that. So having enacted laws, what has eventually happened, right? They have only enacted laws, they have wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, but the country, as if it looks, you know, there are no laws in the country. It is a very sad state of affairs. The biggest problem is, you know.
Well, you're right, because when you just mentioned the words that there is no law in the country, well, how can you expect that to happen? Because in Parliament, we had people smashing up furniture, throwing what later transpires to be chili water with chili powder, and they just behaved like a bunch of hooligans. Well, no, not like a bunch of hooligans. They behaved as hooligans.
I agree with you, because as I said, you know, at the very beginning, we had gentlemen politicos prior to 1970s, let me say it that way, right? Even when, now Parliament is usually a place where you could see heated debates and all that. Fortunately, during that period, we have never seen such provocations. You know, they'll easily, I mean, they don't throw books, or they don't throw chairs in that way.
You're talking about books, 37 years, okay? I'd rather imagine that you are quite well read and that you read a lot of things on a wide spectrum of matters. Have you seen in recent times, in this last, say, 18 months, have you seen a roadmap to economic recovery put forth by this government? Or indeed, for that matter, for any of the opposition parties?
You know, I would like to compare two countries in the sense with India, right?
But India is huge.
India is a huge country. They had a plan. Now, first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru established a planning commission, right? So they had to always abide by the rules and, you know, regulations framed by the planning commission. No, but in our case, it was not that strong in the sense, now we know we had plans here, you know, for very short periods. Unfortunately, the next government that comes to power, right? They would always change all that. That is not what is required. Now, even in countries like Australia, I have a book here, right? Now, this is an old book, actually, Australia 2050. So what they said was they had planned, right? What is the framework which will contain Australia, and Australians as the nation moves toward the end of the first of the half of the 21st century. It is not so much a matter of deciding what Australians want. They want what most people want: peace, stability, prosperity, freedom, good health, and so on, right? So naturally, all what we had during independence, unfortunately, all that is not there, and that is all due to lack of proper planning, and our leaders have not been very much interested in planning.
What about the judiciary then here in Sri Lanka? What about the judiciary? The judiciary, are they firing on all cylinders? Does it inspire the people of the republic? We have serious concerns going on currently in this at this very moment in time about women and children's protection issues. The children appear to be so much at risk. Ajit Rona has been appointed onto the board of the Protection Agency, which is interesting because the government obviously then feels there is a real problem going on there. But we talk about the same agency. In the last administration, the Sirisena administration, the incumbent chairperson of that agency wasn't actually removed, but another chairperson was appointed at the same time. So my question to you is what of the judiciary?
You know, let me take you back again to the independence era, in the sense immediately after independence also we had a very strong judiciary, and even if you go to courts, right, you were sure of relief, justice. Now the biggest problem, you know, unfortunate situation is since 1972, I think changing the constitution in 1947, actually 48 after independence, the Salisbury constitution, I mean, we didn't do it progressively. 72 constitution was again a step in the wrong direction. They abolished.
What about the 78?
78 was still worse, I would say.
Right.
Because
and then we came to the 20th Amendment. Fast forward and we've come to the 20th Amendment.
Yeah, but you know, now see, our legislators, right, lawmakers, now having enacted the 78 constitution, right, for a very long period of time they were debating that it was not a good constitution, and then they even suggested the abolition of the presidency. So it came to a situation in 2002, they enacted the 17th Amendment in order to strengthen the judiciary, strengthen the public sector. That was a good move, because with the setting up of the regulatory commissions, you know.
I'm not in any means interrupting your flow.
Sorry.
But I'm not. I'm sorry if
it's okay, go ahead.
think. But I just want to ask you, are you trying to be very polite and tell me, are you really trying to tell me that the 20th Amendment was absolutely bad news?
20th Amendment was destructive totally. You could see all those dangers, you know, I mean, what's happening right now in the public sector.
So therefore Parliament is now what? A rubber stamp?
Yeah, definitely Parliament is a rubber stamp. It had been like that for so many years, you know. Now that was one reason why they introduced the 17th Amendment, right? Then again during the previous Mahinda Rajapaksa regime, they introduced the 18th Amendment. That was a demolition of the 17th Amendment totally. Actually,
and all those people, what do you feel as citizen Sri Lanka, as a citizen, as a son of this soil, what do you feel about all those people who supported and voted in favor of the 20th Amendment?
Yeah, you know,
what do you feel about them?
It is terrible, because they were there even in the previous Parliament who supported the 19th Amendment, right? If I remember right.
Yes, excepting one person.
Yeah, right. So if they had supported, right, wholesale, most of them, right? Can they, in the sense, abolish a progressive amendment like the 19th? Unfortunately, there were certain shortcomings in the 19th Amendment as well, because this surcharge, all that provisions were removed.
We need to go in for a short break and take a quick look at this evening's primetime news, the headlines. We'll be back on the other side.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
Welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Lacille de Silva. Now then, Mr. de Silva, what's the solution? How do we get this all going?
Yeah, you need total reforms in the whole thing, in my view, personally, I would even say you have to abolish presidency like what they have been discussing for a long period.
Because the presidency is too authoritarian.
Not only authoritarian, it has ultimately made parliament, I would say without any reservation, redundant. Parliament is not doing its functions because basically there was a system, right? Now even recently Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa had said my doors are open because he has feelings, right? You can always manipulate, get people going this way, that way.
You mean the crossovers?
Crossovers.
Well,
right?
that, again, the legal system has de facto permitted them to do this.
All that was there. Now, unfortunately, the situation has become even worse because the laws are not being implemented, right? Laws, I would say, are fast asleep. Not actively.
Well, they would generally be fast asleep in a near dictatorship.
Yeah, because I would say the politicians, due to various reasons, right, they have abused power, they have amassed a lot of wealth, and having amassed all that wealth, they are very cautious not to, and they don't want to ensure laws are forceful in that way. So naturally they have disrupted the whole system. You have to take initial steps in order to ensure that rule of law is established. If that is done, definitely there is no problem in the future. But I don't think that they will do that the way things are happening, right? The 20th Amendment, in that sense, has broken down everything. And eventually, I would always say, right, until all those amendments are repealed, nothing is going to happen beneficial to the people.
Mr. de Silva, permit me to read out a question from a member of the public. How does the admin of Parliament handle the trash that behave like morons? Is there no code of conduct? The falling asleep during sessions, etc. Could it be the quality of the subsidized food they are given in Parliament, where they fill themselves up like crocs and all they could possibly do thereafter is sleeping? It's a valid question.
This is a very good question. Unfortunately, there is nothing that the parliamentary administration can do. But there is a code of conduct, right? Unfortunate situation again, you raised the question about the struggle, the fight that they had, throwing chairs and all that, right? Even under the former speaker, there was a massive investigation conducted and there was a report tabled, right? Having tabled the report, I know the then government did not proceed with it. So this is the very sad state of affairs. Code of conduct is just a scrap of paper. It's simply yes,
So there's no bite in any of this?
No, nothing at all. So naturally, you have to change this political culture, because I would without any fear say this is a mob who is ruling the country. It's a very sad state of affairs, right? They look after each other and continue in that way. But it has eventually put the people, at risk, and they are they are facing a lot of problems at the moment.
I just want to bring something onto the table. The positivity and the forward plans and the forward trajectory in India, for example, no matter the pandemic and so on, they've got plans, they've got a plan. Today, it was reported that an Indian billionaire plans a new airline with 70 aircraft. This is at a time when, as you know, most of the world's aircraft are sitting on tarmacs doing jack, doing absolutely nothing. But here in India, they're making plans, so the positivity is going. In Britain today, it was the announcement from the regulator that one of their online banks has been given a warning because they're playing their role, they're regulating all the time. They don't have an excuse that, oh, well, you know, because of pandemic we couldn't do this, that and the other. Compare that with Sri Lanka. Compare that with Sri Lanka. What did our central bank do? What were all these officials doing whilst the bank was being robbed? They were probably part of the robbing process.
You know, this robbing has continued in the entire public sector from about the 70s. Even prior to that, there were instances in 1958 under Act number 40, you know, former Prime Minister Mr. S.W. Bandaranaike took steps in order to deal with them.
I think that was the only time.
That was the only time, right? Thereafter, not a single. Now, there were instances. I remember another thing, right? Now, when when the Commission of Bribery and Corruption was established in 1994, the present Education Minister, who was the Justice Minister then, said, this will open a new chapter in the country. Corruption will not be heard in the future. So naturally, the same minister in the same cabinet, and he had been there for a long period of time, I don't know what he has to say about this. The sad story, actually, all this rhetoric, you know, it has not ultimately served the people. The biggest problem right now, I would say, you know, all that only in books, law books, and nothing happens, you know.
Somebody sent a message about the Ports Authority and so on. It's a very long message which I can't read it, but in concise, nobody, for example, has explained why 1.2 billion was spent in Hambantota when, for the equivalent amount of money, the port in Colombo with the 3 different jetties was able to be developed for the same kind of money. Another thing, then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the loan had been settled.
You know, I like to say it this way. Now, this gentleman speaks of spending so much of government money. We have heard of various stories how they have busted up government money for various unnecessary purposes without spending all that to provide toilets or even, you know, electronic towers.
To get the children off the trees and into schools where the data signals actually are strong enough.
Right. We know the telecommunications spent 600 million to provide silver, right?
Yes.
So whatever said and done, that's the way how they have been doing all that. Yeah. Now, on the whole,
and we had the former president insist that it was he who gave the instructions.
Yeah, if it was in another country, a different story, you know.
Correct.
So naturally, what I'm trying to ask you, everybody, all these governments since independence in so many ways are responsible. Now I know in 2015 there was a mandate given to punish all those culprits who have committed all kinds of frauds and all that, right? Unfortunately, even in 2015, I was serving a commission, and I was very proud to say it because we did our part.
You were the Secretary General of that.
Yeah, we did our part, right?
Pressifact.
Actually, if Ranil Wickremesinghe and all of them gave the support and the strength to continue all those whatever investigations, things would have been a lot better. It would not have been, you know, I mean, it would have been a different story from what we see nowadays now.
Well, but we sort of say this at the change of every government, if not. But the point is this: where's the problem? Because the problem is obviously in Parliament. With the parties, they keep nominating the same time.
Yeah. So there again, you know, back again in Parliament, actually they must bring in legislation to improve political parties and all that. It is happening now in England, right? They brought in the Standards Commission, right? So naturally there are things like that they could do. Unfortunately now even here, the commissions, etc., they had established. Actually, again, all those commissions were simply rubber stamps, you know. So this is not the way how it should be. you really need reforms, you really need changes in order to take the country forward. Unless you do that, there's no way how we can think of a new Sri Lanka, let me say it that way.
Lacille, I know how disappointed you are with the state of affairs, and therefore this question is valid. Is there anyone, in your view, who even remotely resembles Lee Kuan Yew on our unfortunate Sri Lanka horizon?
You know, we should never think of people. We have been promoting people, individuals, right? We should never do that. We should really think of policies. We are drafting certain policies to be proposed to, you know, the country. We have to have new policies, and we have to have a team of people who will come forward and push forward those policies, really. Otherwise, we should never think of promoting, even in that we proposed abolition of the presidency, all that, right? We should go back to parliamentary system with the Senate and devolution of power to the the furthest end,
yeah,
on that basis, right? That is the only way that we can do that, together with, you know, fourth branch of institutions. Those are the regulatory commissions, right? If you have a new setup with those new whatever guidelines, and right, with a new set of people, not one leader. Actually, if we had a leader, a good leader at the time of independence, this country could have been definitely like Australia, Canada, or New Zealand, or whatever, right? Unfortunately, since then we have not had a single leader. And in 1956 again, you know, I would say even Mr. Bandaranaike had blundered. Since then, after that, up to say 1994, then 2005, 2015, 2020, I mean, a series of blunders. So naturally, we can't think of an individual. It has to be a team of people who will definitely do this job, you know.
Last question. Do you think that there is hope at the moment? Do you think there's hope for someone to emerge and to take,
you know,
charge?
There are even worse countries. Now, think of Rwanda, right? They also went through a 30-year-long war. Unfortunately, we could have definitely, you know, thought of changing the whole thing to achieve greatness after 30 years, ending the 30-year war. I have a feeling this is a blessed country. I have a feeling, I strongly believe this is a blessed country, and we can definitely do something will definitely happen. I'm 100% sure this is not going to be like that. Definitely there's going to be a change, and all that will be in the interest of the country, in the interest of the people, because for rulers, actually the interest of the people should be at heart. Unfortunately, the parliament, what they do is not looking at the interests of the people.
Lacille de Silva, we've run out of time.
Thank you very
much for being on the program, and now it's time for the primetime news from News First. Thank you for your questions. Take care, have a great evening, happy weekend, and God bless you.